The desert is not silent. It sings with a voice as old as the stars, not in sound, but in the silence between winds, in the shimmer that distorts the horizon, in the low hum beneath the sands. You do not hear it. You remember it? The journey begins not in a classroom or a textbook, but standing beneath the merciless sun of Giza, where three sentinels of stone rise, massive, unblinking, and utterly indifferent to modern questions. The pyramids do not answer, they wait. Most visitors come to see monuments, but a rare few come seeking memory. And if you are still, if you can silence the noise of centuries, a strange thing happens. The pyramids begin to speak, not in words, but in geometry, resonance, and shadow. They speak in angles too precise for randomness, in alignments that trace the path of stars now long dead. They whisper through the strange pull in your chest as you stand inside the king's chamber, a vibration, subtle but unmistakable, as though something within you is being tuned. And so, let us begin not with what the pyramids are, but what they are not. They are not tombs. No body was found in the Great Pyramid, not a bone, not a fragment, not a hieroglyph naming a king. No soot from torches blackens its inner walls. No funerary rites are recorded within. This is not absence. It is omission, deliberate, sacred. They are not mere architecture. The stones are so precisely cut and placed that no blade of metal fits between them. Granite from hundreds of miles away, limestone that sings when struck. The inner chambers resonate at frequencies that affect the human body and, more curiously, the human consciousness. They are not the product of slave labor. That is a modern myth. The builders were not beasts of burden. They were initiates, artisans of the sacred science, bearers of knowledge passed down from stars and fire and flood. They worked not for empire, but for eternity. And so, you stand there a seeker. The air inside the Great Pyramid is still, heavy, electric. You press your hand to the cold stone, and without knowing why, your breath deepens. Something ancient is awakening, not out there, but within you, because the pyramid is not a destination. It is a mirror, a diagram, a machine, a temple, cipher for the soul. In this moment, beneath those impossible stones, you sense the first truth. The pyramid was not built for death. It was built for transformation. And so begins the path. A descent through geometry, myth, symbol, and silence, through chambers not meant for light, through codes carved in stone, through time that is not linear, but circular, a spiral staircase of the soul. Ahead lies forbidden knowledge, the original plan drawn in starlight, the sacred science, guarded by orders that no longer bear names, the memory of a time when gods walked as men and men built temples to become gods. But before we descend, before we enter the next chamber, you must answer the question the pyramid silently asks every visitor: are you ready to remember? The sands shift and time folds. You no longer stand in the present. You are watching from behind the veil, as stone is moved not by brute force, but by knowing how to speak the language of earth and sky. The pyramid does not rise, it unfolds as though it were already there, waiting to be drawn out of the stone. There is no pharaoh issuing commands, no whip cracking across a laborer's back. Instead, a circle of men stand in silence, their white robes catching the desert wind. Their faces are veiled, not out of secrecy, but reverence. They are not builders, they are rememberers. One among them moves forward. His staff glows faintly in the twilight. His name is lost in modern records, but not in memory. In the old tongue, he was called Imhotep, he who comes in peace. But his name is a mask, for he is far older than dynasties. Some say he was the last of the Atlantans, others, messenger of Thoth. In truth, he is both, and neither. He kneels upon the sand and begins to trace something with his fingertip. Not a blueprint, a model. Lines converge, angles sing. A pattern emerges that matches the stars above. As above, so below. This is no architecture. This is alignment of energy, of cosmos. of man. And you begin to understand the pyramid is not a tomb. It is a device, a harmonizer, a resonant instrument designed to tune the human soul to the divine frequency, each angle, each stone, each measurement, all encoded with intention, with remembrance. The proportions of the Great Pyramid mirror the golden ratio. Its height multiplied by 1,000 equals the distance from Earth to the Sun. The base encodes the circumference of the Earth, and its orientation is aligned so precisely to the cardinal points that no modern compass could do better. Who knew such things 5,000 years ago? The answer is whispered in the stars. For the true builders of the pyramid were not working alone. They were guided not by aliens, as the vulgar theories suggest, but by intelligences beyond the veil, celestial architects, the lords of measure, the keepers of time. You may call them gods, but they are not gods in the way religions later painted them. They are principles personified, archetypes, forces, Thoth, the god of wisdom, who wrote the first language in the stars, Ta, who speaks the world into form, Mat, who weighs truth with a feather, and above them all Adam, the source, who willed himself into existence from the void. These were not myths. They were the equations behind matter. The ancient builders knew this, not from books, but from initiation. They were trained in temples long since buried, where the rituals taught how to awaken the dormant geometry within the self, to become aligned, to become measured, to become true. And so the pyramid was built as a reflection of that process, a place where the body becomes the altar, the breath becomes the chant, and the soul becomes the light. You do not enter the pyramid, you become it, and this is why its true design was never written down. It was encoded in the stones for the awakened to recognize, not the curious, not the conquerors, but the initiated. And now you are standing at the threshold of the next chamber. Ahead lies descent, not into death, but into the underworld of the self, into the shadow that must be faced before the light can be born. You are not brought here by accident, you are called. The passage narrows, the light from outside fades, swallowed by stone. It is not darkness you walk into, it is remembrance. The walls, rough to the touch, seem to breathe. The air is dense. Sound does not echo, there is only your breath, and the low, growing hum in your chest. You are inside the Great Pyramid. There are no carvings, no paintings, no myths laid out in pictures, because this place is not for the eyes, it is for the soul. Every surface is intentional, every angle exact. It is geometry. Yes, but more than that, it is alchemy. In stone, you descend, the narrow tunnel slopes downward. You must crouch, then crawl. This is no accident. It is part of the rite. The pyramid demands humility before ascent. You are entering your own depths, the subconscious levels of being. The passage to the underworld is not through fire, it is through silence. And then, suddenly, a vast black chamber, the subterranean chamber. It is raw, unfinished, carved into the bedrock itself. There is nothing here but presence, no decoration, no symbols, just cold stone and ancient breath. But it is here that initiates once began the great work, the prima materia, the base, the unrefined. It is the self before awakening, shadowed, formless, primal. This chamber is not for ceremony, it is for confrontation. Here the seeker would lie, sometimes for days, in utter darkness, no food, no sound, just the endless weight of stone and time pressing down, and within that stillness the inner beasts would stir, regrets, fears, false identities. The noise of the ego stripped away until only the watcher remained, the eternal part, silent and observing. You are not told what you are here to find, you are told only to remember that you are more than flesh, more than name, more than time. Those who could not face what lay beneath would leave, trembling, broken, but those who endured, changed. When they emerged, they were no longer seeking truth. They were becoming it, for the pyramid does not offer answers. It demands transmutation in the deepest levels of hermetic initiation. This moment is known, solve et coagula, dissolve, then recombine. The old self must be broken lovingly, utterly, before the new can be born. And so this chamber was the crucible, not symbolic, real. The heart would be weighed here, not by mythic Anubis, but by the seeker himself. Would it balance? Would it rise? You are not told. You are not led. The pyramid does not instruct. It reflects. You remain therefore what feels like hours, days, lifetimes, until something shifts. It's not loud, just a sense, like gravity tilting slightly. The weight of the air grows lighter. The fear recedes. The silence is no longer empty. It is full, alive, pregnant with meaning, and then you feel it. The call to ascend. You crawl once more, upward this time, into a strange angled passage. Narrow still. Your knees ache, your palms sting from the stone, but you move, pulled not by will, but by something deeper, through the ascending passage, toward the grand gallery, toward the chamber of kings. But before you reach it, you will pass through the next mystery, the queen's chamber, and there the real work begins. You emerge from the narrow, suffocating tunnel into sudden spaciousness, not vast, but precise. The walls taper upward in a strange triangular curve, converging in silence. You are standing in the queen's chamber, though no queen was ever buried here. It is not a tomb. It is a womb. The air is still charged. You feel it instantly, a subtle shift in your skin, your breath, your heart rate. The room hums, not with sound, but with presence. You are inside a chamber of resonance. The stone around you is not merely structure, it is instrument. This is the chamber of the subtle body, the temple of the Ka, the Egyptian double, the soul's shadow twin. And here, for the first time, the seeker begins to hear not voices, but tones, harmonics, frequencies. The pyramid is singing, and you are the string it plays. The queen's chamber was never about royalty. It was the midpoint, the crucible, between the gross and the refined, the place where the initiate's lunar energies, intuition, memory, dream, and hidden knowledge were awakened. It is aligned to the moon, as the king's chamber is aligned to Orion, masculine and feminine, solar and lunar, breath and blood. Here, the feminine principle, so long buried in sand and myth, returns to guide the seeker inward. Deeper, there are shafts carved in stone, perfectly aligned with the stars. They are not for ventilation. They are for communion. Stargates, celestial harmonizers, windows not for air, but for spirit. And at the center, the coffer, not a sarcophagus, but a cradle once filled with water. According to ancient memory, its reflective surface was used to scry, to gaze beyond the veil. The initiate would lie within, immersed in sacred fluid, eyes closed, breath slowed, the silence of the stone amplifying the visions rising from within. And what would they see? Not gods, not heavens themselves, but without masks, without fear, without illusion. In this chamber, the hidden teachings of the feminine were given, the mysteries of rebirth, the spiral of time, the sacred bloodlines, the veiled memory of the mothers of the flame, those who came before Egypt, before Atlantis, and taught men to build not with stone, but with meaning. And you begin to feel it now in your ribs, in your spine, a stirring, a resonance. The ancient maps called it the serpent fire, the rising, the kundalini uncoiling. These are not metaphors. They are energies, awakened by form, space, sound, and will. You are not imagining this, you are remembering it. You kneel beside the coffer, your hand grazing the stone. It is warm, vibrating softly, as though it remembers the thousands who came before you, laying down their mortal fears in exchange for sight. You breathe in. The breath is not yours. It is older, deeper. A presence fills the chamber, not visible, but unmistakable. It moves, like mist, like memory. And you realize, you are not alone. You have never been alone. All who entered this chamber left something behind, a fragment, a whisper, a pulse of knowing. And now it speaks to you, not in language, but in image, a serpent of light coiled at the base of your spine, A throne of stars above your head, a single eye opening in darkness. This is not fantasy. This is initiation. You rise, changed, your body feels lighter, time feels slower, and ahead a long slanted hall opens, steep, grand, ascending. You step forward, now part of the geometry. You are not walking. You are climbing the soul's ladder. The grand gallery awaits, and beyond it, the king's chamber, the seat of fire, the place of rebirth. You ascend. The grand gallery stretches above you like the throat of a great dragon carved in stone, steep, echoing, impossibly precise. Every surface, every angle, every joint is deliberate. You run your fingers along the narrow niches that line the walls, sensing what they once held. Torches, tools, no voices. This was once filled with chant, vibration, the sound of names too sacred to speak outside these walls. The geometry amplifies sound like a cathedral forged by gods. One word here does not echo, it multiplies. It becomes a wave, a current, a fire. Your breath shortens as you climb. Not from exhaustion, but from anticipation. The narrow corridor flattens, and you arrive. The king's chamber. It is not what you expect. No gold, no treasures, no thrones. Just clean, black stone. The chamber is stark, austere, yet charged with an unmistakable intensity. It is silent, but not still. You feel it immediately, as though you've stepped into the very heart of the world. This is the throne room, but not of any human king. It is the seat of the solar current, the masculine principle, the divine will, the architect's eye. Where the queen's chamber awakened memory and vision, the king's chamber burns away illusion. Here you are forged, there at the center, the sarcophagus. Though it never held a corpse, its dimensions match those of the Ark of the Covenant. Its granite difficult to cut even today, its placement exact to the millimeter, and beneath the floor, a mystery. Sealed beneath stone are 5 great relieving chambers, misnamed by archaeologists. In truth, they are resonators, cavities that hum with energy. And above them, the great girdle stones, bearing inscriptions left not for the public, but for the watchers, hidden messages for the hidden world. You lie down within the coffer. It is cold, then warm, then vibrating. The walls around you begin to breathe. You do not hear sound, you become it, a low tone, then another, harmonics, frequencies that bypass thought and strike the marrow. Your bones feel weightless, your body dissolves, your eyes close and open in another world. The chamber vanishes. You are standing in a field of stars, a river of light coils around you. A great serpent made of fire, speaking without words. And above you, descending from the crown of the heavens, a single shaft of golden light. You look down and see the pyramid. From above, you are no longer inside it, you are it. The structure was never built, it was remembered. The knowledge did not rise from the sand, it descended from the stars. Not in ships, in symbols, in frequencies, in rituals, a gift not to store bodies, but to awaken immortality. This is what they feared. This is why the libraries were burned, why the priesthoods vanished, why modern theories cling so desperately to stones and bones, because if the truth were remembered, if the pyramid's purpose was known, we would no longer be asleep. You awaken, still lying in the coffer, tears on your face. You are not sad. You are remembering joy, the pure, ancient joy of being aligned, of becoming what you were meant to be. A bridge, a vessel, a flame. The air is still, but something is different. You are no longer a visitor. You are no longer a seeker. The pyramid has accepted you, or rather, you have matched its frequency. And now, you must ascend, but not back to the world you came from, to the one beneath it, to the final mystery, sealed not in stone, but in silence. The hall of records calls. You descend in silence. The king's chamber behind you pulses like a distant star, but now the path grows darker, colder. The grand gallery recedes, and with it the light of the upper world. This is not regression. It is return. You are moving inward, not backward. There is no door, no map, only instinct, and then a breath of cool air, unnaturally cool, not wind, but presence. You turn a corner in the stone and feel it. A sudden drop in pressure, in time and being, as if the pyramid itself is bowing or perhaps watching. You have found it, the hall of records, not the mythical library of scrolls and tablets, not a chamber of books, but a vault of memory, suspended in time, woven into the stone, encoded in the very geometry of the earth. This place is not made of matter, it is made of knowing. The ancients spoke of it. The Egyptians called it the Akash, the hidden lake. The Atlantans knew it as the chamber of the deep flame. The initiates of the mystery schools wore oaths to protect its threshold. And legends said only those whose hearts were lighter than a feather could enter. You take one step inside, the air changes. It tastes of frankincense, ozone, rain, the scent of temples long buried, and stars long dead. The darkness is thick but not empty. It shimmers faintly like ink moving in water, and then the light, not from torch or fire, from memory. Visions surround you, but they are not visions. They are records, not metaphor, real, preserved in the frequency of the chamber. You see cities that never existed on maps, crystalline domes rising above jungles now turned to sand, beings not human, but luminous, standing in circles, shaping stone with their voice. You see a temple before the pyramid, rising from water, a ceremony of light, a council of 12. They are watching the stars, waiting for alignment. A voice speaks within you. This was before the fall, Atlantis, not myth, but memory. The knowledge of harmonic energy, the sacred science of form, the weaving of soul and sound into matter, all of it preserved here, not to be kept, but to be found again. And suddenly you understand the deeper truth. The hall of records is not beneath the pyramid. It is within you. The chamber responds to your vibration. The more you remember, the more it reveals. This is why it was hidden, not from enemies, but from those who were not ready to know. Knowledge, after all, is not power. It is responsibility. You kneel, not out of submission, but recognition. You remember the oath, not spoken, but etched in your bones, to guard the flame, to walk the silence, to speak only in symbols. And now the light begins to recede, not gone, just sealed. Again, but not from you. Within you, you rise. The chamber is quiet again, but it has done its work. The scrolls are in your breath now, the symbols behind your eyes. The names you once forgot are forming again on your tongue. You have passed through the innermost gate, and now the final ascent begins, to return not back, but through the veil. You climb in silence, stone presses close again, and the tunnel narrows. But you are not confined, you are carried. The pyramid does not hold you now, it releases you. The resonance you felt on entering has changed, no longer heavy, testing, now subtle, guiding. You are not retracing your steps. You are ascending a spiral invisible to the eye but real in the soul. There is no sound. Yet all around you is movement, not of air or dust, but of presence. It is as though the very walls remember you, adjusting their song to your frequency. You have become part of the structure, not a visitor, but a tuning fork, calibrated by the ancient harmonic. And slowly, light, you emerge into the open air. But it no longer feels like air. The sky is not the sky, the light is too alive. You squint against the desert sun, but even its heat feels transformed, less like fire, more like breath. You have returned, but not to the same world. The pyramid behind you looms, unchanged in form, but now you see it, not as a structure, but as a being, a machine of spirit, a still living altar, a map not of land, but of consciousness. You look around at the tourists, the cameras, the noise, the ordinary chatter of modernity, but their words fall away. Like rain on glass, you are no longer within the noise, you are observing it, as one does in dreams, awake inside a world still sleeping. And the real transformation begins now. This is the final secret. The pyramid was not built to be visited, It was built to remake you. The chambers are not rooms, they are rites. The passages are not corridors, they are veins. The structure is not solid, it is alive in a language beyond sound. You are never meant to worship it. You are meant to become it, to carry its geometry into your choices, to measure your words like its angles, to align your inner world like its stars. This is why its power was hidden, why its purpose was erased from history, because those who awakened within it became something more dangerous than kings or priests. They became sovereign, not above others, but within themselves. That sovereignty is yours now, not given, not bestowed, but claimed through remembrance, through fire, shadow, breath, and silence, through the ancient path carved not in the sand, but in you. And as you stand at the base of the pyramid, hand against the stone, one final image pierces your memory. A circle of white-robed initiates beneath a sky without time. One among them turns to you. Their face is your own. They smile, not in greeting, but in recognition. You are always here, and now you remember. Night falls over Giza. The stars emerge, one by one, as they have for thousands of years, but you do not look up with the same eyes. The constellations are no longer just patterns. They are symbols, coordinates, memories. Orion's belt, precisely, aligned with the three pyramids, now pulses with deeper meaning, not legend, not coincidence, intention. You walk the sand slowly, your shadow long behind you. But it is not just your own shadow that follows. It is the shadow of every seeker who walked this path before, in sandals, in silence, in starlight. The invisible brotherhood, the sisterhood of the flame, those who never left, because they were never confined to flesh. The pyramids do not change, because they do not need to. They are fixed points in a shifting dream, anchors in the current of forgetting, and those who are ready, drawn without knowing why, find themselves standing before them, hands trembling, hearts stirred by an ache they cannot name, a memory that predates memory. This is their true purpose, to awaken you, to hold the form of sacred knowledge when empires crumble, to preserve in stone what cannot be spoken in words. They are the final remnants of a world where science was sacred, where geometry was prayer, and where to master the self was to master the universe. The pyramid is not an object, it is an initiation frozen in matter, a codex, a frequency, a sacred instrument designed to trigger the unfolding of the divine blueprint within the human being. And it still functions, not as a machine of metal, but as a harmonic altar. Its resonance has not dimmed. It waits, not for time, but for readiness. It waits for you, for those who dare to remember the ancient agreements, to walk the spiral path, to confront the inner tomb and light the inner fire. You leave the plateau without needing to speak. There is no doctrine to preach, no belief to defend. The pyramid is not a religion. It is not a mystery to be solved. It is a mirror, one that reflects only what is true. And now you carry its geometry in your bones, its angles in your thoughts, its flame in your breath. You have not visited the pyramid, you have become it, and long after your footsteps fade from the sand, long after your name is forgotten, the stones will remain, humming quietly, waiting patiently, whispering to the stars, another has remembered, and that is enough.